All right there. Hello, fellow protectors. Welcome to Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. We're jumping on a little bit earlier today. If you're watching us live, it's 7 o'clock normally. We're every Thursday at 7:30, but tonight a little bit early. So anyways, listen, thank you so much for joining us. Tonight we have Brad with us and Dustin with us. We got everybody back. So we're going to jump right into tonight's topic. This is going to be really interesting, and I actually did this in one of my privates earlier this week, and the results of this session were so dramatic from beginning to end in a 60-minute period, how much it changed the behavior of my client, that I wanted to talk about it on tonight's podcast. So I labeled this one, Why So Serious? Okay, so we're gonna break this down, come back, and we're gonna talk about why so serious. So stick with me, you're really gonna like that. I think everyone's gonna get a lot out of this. There have always been men willing to answer the call to the threats against our way of life. Well, today, that threat is right outside our doors, on our streets, in our neighborhoods, on our public transportation system, outside the places we work, and even outside of our children's schools. My new mission is to create and train a group of men that believe in the right to life and value the freedom a man has to protect his life, his family, and his property. I'm Greg LeBoeuf. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, okay, so we are back. So listen, I titled tonight's episode, Why So Serious? And like I said, earlier this week I had a client, and this just, in the first few minutes of his session, this became just blatantly obvious that this conversation was needed. So we went into it, and within probably the first 10 minutes of explaining this concept to him, there was a noticeable difference. And then as we went through the remaining hour of the private, it just literally synergized so that after a 60-minute period, I mean, it was literally, the guy was unrecognizable in the areas that we were working to develop. So I thought, let's break this down tonight. Okay, so I see we lost Dustin real quick, so maybe I'm sure he'll jump back on in a few seconds. But the concept of why so serious is, let's look at this two ways. I'll start by kind of what I witnessed and try to set a scenario. So I had a client working with him, and I was, playing the attacker, so gloves on, had the gear on, helmet on, all that stuff of that. And so I'm feeding him, and I'm attacking him. And we're doing a mid-range feed, meaning that I'm not going at him as hard as I possibly can, but at the same time, it's not easy. Like, there's a lot of forward pressure. It's broken rhythm. I'm actually trying to connect with him. So you got a good mid level of pressure on him. And so he's doing everything that I want him to do strategically and tactically for his level where he's at. He's literally checking all the boxes. So the big thing you have to understand with the scenario is I'm playing the attacker, and he is responding appropriately. He's literally checking all the boxes. Yet there was one thing that just prevented him from actually attaining what I would call functional application. And this is just a sub-context within it. But just because you can do something at a very high level of proficiency doesn't necessarily make it functional. Obviously, the context determines the content, with what I'm talking about. But when it comes to combat, the execution of physical skill alone, even at a very, very high level, or let's say done right, doesn't guarantee functionalism. Okay, so and hopefully as we go through this, people understand a little bit more. So the one thing I noticed, I stopped the round and I asked him, and I said, listen, what is it that you're feeling when we start these rounds, when you're in the middle of these rounds, with the second I'm coming after you, what are you feeling? And that stumped him for a little bit, because a lot of times the question will be, what are you thinking about? Like, what's going on in your brain? What are you trying to do? But I could see that he was thinking the right thoughts. He was trying to execute the right strategies, tactics, and using the right tools. But when I asked him what he felt, that stumped him for a second. And then he kind of was like, well, a little bit like, trying to balance it all, like a little bit of the pressure of will I get my timing right? Trying to control the distance. We're moving around. We're using environment. I mean, we were outside. So, we had the garage door open. So he's, the cars are there, the garbage can, the trees there. He can use the environment. There's just all of these things. And so he kind of went through this thing of like a little bit of tension, a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of like, his focus was being split. He felt a little bit choppy, a little bit mechanical, just all of these different things and descriptors he started to list. And I said, okay, so how would you like to feel? Like if you could feel any way, how would you like to feel? And it was really interesting because he said, well, I would definitely, like, instantaneously, no hesitation. He said, I'd like to feel more relaxed, like I'm not fighting myself so much. And he goes, like more, and he couldn't quite find the right word, but he's like more playful. And the second he said playful, he goes, no, not playful, no, but like, and I said, hang on a second. What's the matter with playful? And right away, it was like his eyes got bigger. He got nervous. He got nervous because he thought that when he said he wanted to feel more relaxed, he was okay with that, but relaxed and playful, he got nervous because he thought that that would piss me off. In what way? Meaning he didn't want me to think that he wasn't taking the training seriously. And that's where I wanted to stop everything. And so his whole mantras for that session became, listen, I want you being relaxed and playful. Like, playful doesn't mean you're not taking this shit seriously. Playful doesn't mean you're turning it into a fucking game. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't really care. This is all just a joke to me. But that becomes the neuroassociation. Is when people think about being relaxed and playful, they actually have the wrong fucking paradigm wired to that. And that's what I want to break down for people tonight on the podcast. And that's what I want you guys to weigh in on. Okay, so I'll just hit this next little setup, then I'm going to let you guys jump in with your visceral thoughts. But I wrote down I did this literally seconds before we went live. I wrote down 2 columns. One was relaxed and playful, underlined it. And then the next column over was serious, and then underlined that. Now, I'm going to throw out some words. Under serious, when I thought about, hey man, better get fucking serious, here's just a few quick descriptors that I came with, just top of mind. Uptight, nervous, doubtful, hesitant, choppy, mechanical. These are all of emotional states that just viscerally, when I thought about, getting really fucking serious about something, like this guy's trying to fucking kill me, you get serious, that's the emotional states that seem to be synonyms with that. When I thought about being relaxed and playful, here are the words that popped to my head. Loose, creative, crisp, sharp, energetic, focused, and smooth. And so these are just the words that then popped into my head. Now, as in the scenario, when I'm sharing what happened with my client, when he was serious, oh man, he was uptight, nervous, doubtful, hesitant, choppy, mechanical. Yet he was doing all of the right things, but he was doing them very uptight, very nervously, very choppy, full of doubt and hesitation, all of that type of stuff. Once I got him to understand, no man, listen, you got to fucking relax and be playful, but we had to redefine that. Play seriously. Right? You can play seriously, but when I got him to relax and be playful, he got loose, he got creative, he got crisp, he was sharp, he was energetic, he was focused, and he was fucking smooth. And the difference between those 2 states is absolutely insane. And I want to break down more of what I saw in him as a social, kind of social proof for everybody. But let me just get your guys' take on what we're talking about tonight on the whole why so serious and what you guys have experienced and know to be true about serious and relaxed and playful. And we'll kind of just go from there.
Yeah, this one really resonates with me because, I know exactly that feeling that he was feeling. And recently just had it at our last combat school. And obviously at a different level, but like I didn't use the word serious or playful. I say it all the time. I'm like, I'm not clicking into my character, right? The character that I have that has that crisp ballisticness, flow, just all those things that on how I like to move and how that expressiveness that I have, that when I know that I'm clicked into my top ozone, that character comes out. And so like when you're talking about that playfulness, I'm like, I immediately got what the context was, because it was like, it actually, it's kind of funny. Like I'm thinking about it as I'm explaining, but like, it actually makes me more serious, but not in a, oh, like I'm very serious now, blah, blah. But it's like, it's, I feel more dialed into everything. And again, I like what you said. You said playing seriously, or play seriously. And that makes sense to me. But again, like I take all these attributes that I know that are me in my ozone, and I just call them my character. I don't really have a name for that character, but I'm like, that's my character. And that character has that, that persona, that has that attitude, that is all in that. And when I click in and I have all those things, the physical, the mental, the intellectual, and my character is there, my attitude is there, I feel like I'm at my best. And when I'm reflecting back to our last combat school, again, I was like, oh yeah, clear as day. I was doing everything right. And on the outside, most people are like, oh yeah, that was really good. And then in my inside, I'm like, yeah, no, it was good. It was nice, but it wasn't, I didn't feel it. And I wasn't feeling that from that character that I like to have when I'm bringing my ozone to the table, or when I'm fully clicked in and dialed in.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with Brad, especially in regards to just like, getting into that flow, the ozone, the optimal zone of natural excellence for people who don't know what ozone is. So yeah, like I can echo everything Brad said. So instead of doing that, I'll try and hit a different part of it where, again, coming back to like the seriousness of it, why so serious? And then Greg, you said you did the columns and like, oh, when I thought serious, like what words hit me? And as soon as you said it, like to me, it's just like, bam, I got nailed with overwhelmed, like just right away. I was like, when I think about just being too serious, overly serious, right away, it's overwhelming, and not like physically overwhelming, like when we talk mass attack and stuff, but like self-inflicted, mentally overwhelmed, kind of like your client, where it's just like, I'm trying to think about this, I'm trying to think about that, and I want to make sure I'm doing this, I don't want to forget this, and just like bombarded with all the intellectual thoughts instead of slipping into that ozone like Brad was talking about, whereas like just do what you know. You know what to do, so do what you know. And that's one of the hardest things I think with training. And unfortunately, like no matter how long you do it, you always battle that a little bit. I mean, we trained last night, first round. What did me and Brad do? Like trying too hard, too much strength, like trying to drive our bodies. And I think that's something for me that, like when you say seriousness, it's like, yeah, you're trying to drive your body. And so you can't do that. Like you're not going to perform at the highest level when you're trying to force things to happen. You're trying to force yourself to do something to a certain level instead of just doing it at the level you're at. And just by doing that, you'll get in the reps, you'll get in the flight time, you're going to get better. You're going to have aha moments, you're going to grow, and then that level will come up on its own. It's like put in the time, the result happens. You don't need to worry about the result. The training methods are there, the process works. Like just work the process. So for me, that was a big part of it. And then one other point was, I think seriousness, and like your client was worried, like, oh man, he's gonna think I'm not taking this seriously. I think being serious can sometimes be mistaken for trying to be professional, and we talk a lot about that. Like we consider ourselves like operators. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a personal self and a professional self, and I think that being in your professional self is not as simple as just saying, oh, you just got to take it seriously. I think that's two different things, that could be unpacked, but.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, like everything you guys said obviously is really, really good and very, very accurate. And for the people that are listening to this or watching this that maybe have a basis of training and have some years under their belt, they'll really relate to what you guys said, because the process that you work to get to the state of having developed a character and, having developed the part of your nature that you can get into your ozone, your optimal zone of natural excellence, like Dustin was talking about, where you are relaxed and playful. For people that are brand new to this, it's like, how do you get relaxed and playful when you're still just learning, practicing, mastering, the new strategies, tactics, and tools when the stuff is new to you? Because that's really kind of the question, because that's what's happening. You got a guy here, my client at the time, who's just been training for just over a year, maybe coming up on a year and a half. So he doesn't have a lot of time in. Every session it's not like you're learning something new, because combat isn't about constantly adding, it's constantly decreasing. But you are trying to, again, the 5 stages of learning are learn, practice, master, functionalize, and then you go into a maintenance mode, right? But master doesn't mean what most people think it does, but I'm not going to go into that. But just you're learning something, you're practicing something, you're mastering, just meaning you're trying to get these to be a little more automated in your body. You're not having to use as much conscious thought. There's a stimulus, and the stimulus automatically elicits a response. That's mastery. Okay, mastery doesn't mean perfection. But then there is a big jump from mastery to functionalization. And so just listening to you guys, and for me, the contrast was very sharp, because, I mean, obviously I know we're at the level you guys are at and the process you've been through over 25 years. And then contrasting that to where he's at, everything you're saying is 1000% true, but he has to, like, how do you get someone playful in the beginning? So really the challenge for you guys is to go back in time and try to think about, how did I get relaxed and playful when I'm struggling to just learn, practice, master stuff, never mind even functionalize some of the shit. And I'll just throw a few things out there, and it's going to relate to what you do right now, but you'll be able to go back and kind of think about when you first had to work these concepts. So one of the things that I would list out next is that also under the column of serious, not only do people have to identify the emotional states that they connect with seriousness, because you can have people that, like, again, like, you know, someone's trying to fucking kill you. Someone's, you know, trying to murder your fucking family. Like, your kids are there. If you go down, there's no one to protect your family. Like, you are playing the highest stakes poker ever. Well, when you're in that pressure situation, again, does it make you feel uptight, nervous, doubtful, hesitant? I like, Dustin, when you said overwhelmed, choppy, mechanical, all of that type of stuff. But and you might have slightly different emotional states, but if they're aligned with the negative, all those emotional states I'm listing are negatives, right? Maybe in small degrees, a little bit of, you know, like nervousness and a little bit of, you know, a little bit of hesitant or whatever, like maybe a little bit of that can help you in a certain way, like a little bit of adrenaline and stuff. Obviously, you know, the arousal level goes up. That's actually helpful for you to a degree. But I think those are, if they're helpful at all, it's to a very, 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 very small degree. So you have to define that for yourself, because when you start training, you have to control the emotional state you're in. Training should always elicit an emotional state. So training has to create the emotional state. When we feed somebody or when we're doing a drill or whatever we're doing, I'm very aware of what emotional state I want them to be in when they're learning, practicing, mastering, functionalizing. So you can't train somebody. You can't say, I'm gonna feed, I'm gonna be the bad guy, and then you put them in a relaxed out of the moment state of mind, where you're feeding them, and in between rounds you're talking about you know, what you're gonna do after, or hey, did you see that new movie, or did you watch the hockey game, or whatever it is. Like, unless that's a distraction technique where you're testing them, you get what I mean? Like, you want them in the right state of mind. So here's what I come up with, okay, for this. When people get serious, it is because they have a tremendous fear of failure. So when you're learning something, practicing something, trying to commit it, like trying to get it to be autopilot, not perfect, but to be subconsciously driven, you have a constant fear of failure. But it's not fear of failure like, if I fail this, my family's going to get killed, because you're in a training mindset. Your fear of failure is you're going to look stupid in front of your instructor. You're going to look stupid in front of other clients, right? You're just going to feel stupid yourself, because you're like, God, he's told me 13 times to do this, and why am I fucking struggling? Why is this? The amount of clients I have that say to me, you know, in a session, oh, fuck, man, sorry, I'm an idiot. This is taking me forever. And I'm like, you've tried it 3 fucking times. Like, you know, your expectation is different than mine, because I'm showing you something where I know how long this is going to take for you to get it, and you're stressing because you haven't got it in the first 3 opportunities. I've been doing this 30 years, go ahead.
On the contrary, there's nothing worse than the guy after one time being like, "Hey, I got it." Mm-hmm. You're like, "No, you don't."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like you tend to deal with two, diametrically opposed mindsets. The guy that just sees it and goes, yeah, move on. And the guy that goes, is all fucking flustered because he hasn't done it right after 3 times. But so there's a fear of failure in that. Okay. The second thing, and this is tied into it, but a fear of looking bad. And those can be two different things. Fear of saying, I'm not getting this right, is frustrating because you think that, this looks so easy. Why can't I do this? So you have it's kind of hitting your self-image. A fear of looking bad is some people are extrinsically motivated and they're worried about judgment from other people. It's less like, I know lots of guys that like, they don't care if they can't get it, but they're embarrassed if other people see them failing. Do you know what I mean? Like privately, they'll just fail over and over and over again until they get the skill set down. That doesn't really deter them. But if other people are there, they don't like that. So that's what I mean by, you're afraid of making a mistake is one thing, or afraid of looking bad can be a different thing. They can be tied together, but they can be separate. I see beginners getting way too hyper-focused because you're learning so many things. So you have 1 or 2 strategies and tactics that are in the learning cycle. You have a couple that you're in the practicing cycle, and you have 2 or 3 that you're in the mastering stage already, or maybe even 1 or 2 in the functionalizing stage. But you're trying to bring all these things out together. So you become too hyper-focused on one skill set and something else falls off. So that's another thing that happens when people get too serious. It's like they're trying to juggle, and the second they throw a chainsaw in the mix, they're so worried about the chainsaw they forget about the butcher knife, and the butcher knife is what goes through their hand. You know what I mean? It's like you become too singularly focused is another problem, and then doing too much. You're just trying to do fucking everything perfectly. So those are a few things where I think new people really struggle with. And why I want to bring those up is because what's the solution to those? We have a very specific solution. I was able, and that list just comes from the things that I saw him worrying about. And so he doesn't have 25 years of knowledge and experience to fall back on. So it's like, how do you get someone who doesn't have the experience, is in the learn, practice, or master phase with almost everything they know? How do you get them to become relaxed and playful when they just simply haven't put the time in to get to that, emotional intelligence and that experience-based place? So I just want you guys to give me a couple thoughts on that, and if you agree with that, or if you think of anything else that maybe causes new people, to get way too serious.
The first thing that hit my mind, and I don't know if this is one of the ones you're thinking of or not, but it's just give them permission. Let them know that it's okay, which is obviously what you did. You had to talk to the guy and explain it to him. But so I think that's a big part of it, because like you said, a lot of it is an internal battle. It's the fear of failing, but that's all like within self type thought process, right? So I think permission alone is one place to start.
Okay,
Just
so
being
let
like,
me
yeah,
just
it's actually
clarify,
okay.
or let me get you to clarify for people. I know what you're talking about. Permission for what?
Permission to not take it so fucking seriously. Like, do you know what I mean? Like to not
Okay.
have all that stress and pressure.
Okay, but how do they do that? That's like someone, you see a point where you go,
Just
listen.
calm down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, focus, and you tell someone to focus harder, and they're like,
Yeah.
if I knew how to focus harder, I would have been doing it. So
Well,
permission
that's
to
what I
do
mean.
what?
Like permission to just relax and have fun. Don't be so worried about the outcome of every single little thing you do, every move you make, every strategy you try to execute. Just do it, and again, divorce yourself from the outcome. Don't
Okay,
worry
but how
about
do they let
good
go
it
of
went
that?
or didn't.
How do they do it? Because saying that is one thing, but they won't do it because their brain is preoccupied with, no, I want to get this. I'm here, man. I'm taking this seriously. How do you give them, because telling them, you know what I mean? Again, somebody being like, hey, listen, I got a call. I had to go in and do a checkup, and I got a call from my doctor, and they want to see me on Monday, about that lump in my neck. Say, hey, man, don't worry about it till Monday. You know what I mean? That's 4 days away. Just forget about it. It's like, yeah, fuck you, forget. How the fuck am I going to? I've given you permission to not think about it. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, easy for you to say because you don't have a lump in your fucking neck and going to the doctor on Monday. Fuck you, man. Like, you got to have something deeper than that. Like, what else do you need? Because you're on it, But what is how do you give them permission? Because you can give them
Well,
permission. How do you get them to give themselves permission is basically what I'm saying.
part of it would be self-talk, giving them a
Okay.
piece of self-talk that's going to start to help them, to show them what to focus on, what type of mindset to have, right? It's like, what are you actually saying in your head as you're executing different strategies?
Okay. All right, Brad, do you have anything you want to add to that for this? How you can help somebody give themselves permission?
Yeah, my first thought went to divorcing yourself from the outcome, but obviously there's more to it than that. Kind of just listening to you guys talk it through a bit. One of the things came to my mind is like giving them the experience of, like I agree, like all the self-talk, all the mindset, but then giving them an experience of what it's like to let go of some of that seriousness and be okay with the failure. And I just envision my head of feeding a scenario and be coaching him along the way. You know what I mean? And having that experience of them going through it, but having that feeling that positive self-talk, feeling that result as they're going through it, which kind of creates a new experience for them, I guess. Does that make
So
sense?
like helping them program their self-talk.
Yeah, but not just as a, hey, this is what you should be doing. Almost like in that moment as well, coaching them and helping them program it is like, through the actual scenario.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that you're both right on it, and this I'm sure is maybe even where your thought was actually progressing to. But one of the things that I found, and this is again where I think for people listening to this can be very, very useful. When you're thinking about combat, like when you're thinking about defending yourself, your family, let's start off with what I think I would build a list of facts. So what I would label this as the truths. Okay? So the facts of combat. And one of the facts of combat is that shit's going to go wrong. If you take the best operators in the world and you ask them, if you do a round count, right? So you send out one of the top trained warriors in the world and he goes on to the battlefield and he's in a combat situation and that warrior that warrior entered onto the battlefield with, let's just say, 300 rounds of ammunition between all of the tools he's carrying. And when he comes back from that, he has 0 rounds left. Did he get 300 kills? The answer to that is almost undoubtedly no. Why? Why would a guy that skilled not hit and kill something with every bullet that he shot? Well, most people right now in their brains are going, that's fucking ludicrous. What a stupid question. Get what I mean? Why? Because, it's not like people are standing right fucking in front of you and you just, it's not a fucking like, you just shoot them. The people are shooting back. People are behind walls. People are this. You're doing suppression fire. You're doing all kinds of different fucking things. So what you're basically saying is that, like, bullets don't work. So keep shooting till you find one that does. Sometimes you hit a motherfucker and you got to hit him another 6, 7, 8 times before you neutralize that target. Yeah, that just makes sense. But all of a sudden, when it comes to hand-to-hand combat and throwing of punches, kicks, or takedowns or chokes or whatever, a lot of people have a perception that every round you throw has to do some sort of damage that should kill the target. And it's like, there's this thing where when, like, what I would do and what I did with him was, listen, yes, of course, you give him permission to fail. You give him permission to say, listen, don't worry about all of these different things. But what's even easier is saying, listen, right now we're training. And as much skill set as you have, we have to make you as functional as possible. Remember, our whole mission is to take people from 0 to formidable as quick as possible. That means that you can actually utilize the skill sets to protect yourself and your family when you're weaponized very, very quickly. It does not take a lot of hours. But we're not saying that's all the training you ever need in the world. We're saying that that is the foundational start point for getting you functional. Now, as time allows, we're really trying to build a higher level of skill, go from formidable to tactical, and then from tactical to fucking surgical. Like, there is a process to this. So in the context of somebody who is now formidable, but you are trying to make them tactical, you have to say, listen, understand the journey is going to be harder. To go from, 0 to formidable is the easiest part of the journey you're ever going to take. To go from formidable to tactical is a much more difficult journey, which means it's filled with greater failures, greater challenges. Okay? But so when you're doing that, but say, listen, today we are standing here inside of a training facility. And as real world as we want to make it be, you're learning right now. This is you getting to fail on a battlefield without dying. So it's like, remember that. Yes, we are training for a real world situation, but we are just training. So now's the time to be relaxed and playful. Because here's what happens. As you are trying these skill sets that you are not yet functional in, but you are in the learn, practice, master phase, you're developing and growing, watch what happens. And this is, Brad, what you were alluding to. What happens when, what's the number one thing that could happen that scares you? I misjudged my range, my timing, this, and you hit me. Hit you how? Like hit you in the face, kick you in the teeth, kick you in the gut, take you down, slam you on the floor. Like, be specific. What's your fear? And they're going to come up and tell you what their fear is. Okay. What's, something that you're afraid of? Okay. Looking bad. What would that look like to look bad? Like, what would have to happen to have you look bad? Would it have to be you're in the middle of a sparring match and somebody throws a kick and your pants blow off and you're standing there basically naked in front of everybody? Which a lot of people might think, well, that's crazy. That actually fucking happened to a guy that I was training. That's actually Dustin's brother, happened to him. And so shit like that can happen in the craziest ways. But the point is, then you execute it. So say, now we're going to do a round where you're going to fail. You're going to take that hit, you right? And then you're all of a sudden, you're moving, boom, no, don't, and then boom, he takes the hit. And then it's, oh, what? Well, yeah, but that wasn't as hard as you could. Well, I never was throwing as hard as I could. Even if I'm coming at you with a lot of hard, intense energy, I am thresholding it because you're learning. The value of you getting punched as hard as I can punch you, as hard as someone else can punch you in the head, has zero value at this stage. You're not ready. You don't need that kind of pressure. So my point is that you create the failure. And then what you are training is over and over and over again, keep failing. I spent exactly probably about 6.5 minutes just immersing him in absolute and total failure. Being like, look at this, what if 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 this, oh my God, this, you missed this, you missed that, you missed this, you missed that, you missed this. And each time that happened, 6.5 minutes, you're talking about hundreds of examples of failures, things that he feared. And guess what? After each one of those, I'd ask him a question. Is the world still going? Like, is the world still rotating? Are you still alive? You still got air in your lungs? You're okay? And the answer to that, of course, is what? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So what's going to happen? What you expect to happen isn't real, right? And yeah, but what if he had the knife? What if he had this? So then I take out the training knife and we start. Yeah, but that's a training knife. Okay, but how do you count to 10? 1, 10, 1, 9, 10, 1, 8, 10. No, you count 1, 2, 3. It's a progression. Say, you can get to a point someday where if you want to do this live blade, we'll do it live blade. And you'll be able to handle it. It will not be the scary people, oh my God, you can't do live blade training, you're crazy. You can actually do live blade training when people are at the right level and the right time with the certain safeguards, you absolutely can do it. But to just throw somebody in there and go, oh, we do live blade training, that's ridiculous, idiotic, and stupid. That's like saying Navy SEALs can't train with live rounds. Well, they do it all the fucking time. And at times they have lost people in training. In a training exercise, people have been killed. But you get why, for what they're doing, the level they're doing it at. But, you work to that. Nobody ends up first day and you got live rounds flying down range in that type of setting. All of the training that went before that. That's a level 7, 8, 9 type thing, not a 1, 2, 3 type thing. Does that make sense? So the point was, is the quick way around it was your way why so serious, man? And then saying, no, don't correct yourself, relaxed and playful. And then it was 6.5 minutes or so of being like, dude, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen, man. Like, find a sense of humor about things. Nothing's going to happen. The world doesn't start. Your head didn't explode. Your heart didn't stop. Like, there is no dim Mac touches. Like, you're fucking fine. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you face those things and he's like, oh, yeah, that's it. Like, I guess, yeah, fuck, yeah, I guess. So now let's just do what? Let's just fucking have fun, man. Relax, loosen up, set your state, control it each round. And then you start working it. And all of a sudden, and of course, the big link is what? Breathe. Breathe. And when something doesn't go the way you want it to go, find a fucking sense of humor about it. Humor is such a powerful state-altering thing, right? Like, would you guys agree with that? Like, Brad, when you talk about your character, Dustin, when you think about when you are in your best state, if you know, you guys been around me for obviously 2.5 decades. When I'm in my best state, right? Like, what's the humor like? What's the mood like? Like it's we all know for us, it's relaxed and it's playful. And for each of us, that means something slightly different. We're not relaxed and playful all in the same ways. It means different things to us. But that's what you guys were alluding to. We've created our ozone. We've created our characters. We've created our nature around it. But the humor's massive, man. When you're just, again, loose, creative, crisp, sharp, energetic, smooth, you know what I mean? You got humor. Humor is massive, and that's in your breath, it's in your expressions, it's in everything, right? How important has that been for you guys, or how important what role have you seen humor play in keeping people relaxed and playful, especially when something doesn't go quite right, a slip, a fall, whatever it is?
Yeah, that happens all the time. And I think humor is a common antidote for seriousness for everybody, at least in our culture, because we're all raised with like, what's the like when you're doing something that's supposed to be super serious, a funeral or whatever, like, yeah, humor is usually not a part of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course it can be and whatever, but like, yeah, I think they're diametrically opposed. And as soon as you introduce the freedom to laugh and have fun and enjoy things, right away it's going to take a lot of stress and pressure out of any situation.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, and in a direct correlation, performance goes way the fuck up.
Yeah,
Like
well,
it's,
because you relax, you start to get out of your own way, right?
exactly.
Like we talk about it all the time about like don't drive your body because you have to get out of your own way, right? You get caught in your head, you get caught intellectual, and like you need to be intellectual to learn sometimes, but you can't stay intellectual the entire time when you're trying to learn something new and train
Yes,
and work a process. That's for sure.
yes, 100%.
Well, yeah, I think even some of the best session sparring that I know that I've been a part of, excuse me, are the ones that were like, let's just play, let's just express, and then as you're doing those things, it's like, oh man, you would have fucking ate that one, or it's like those little comments come out. It's like, oh fuck, or like a guy slips, and it's like, oh now you're down. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
so that all comes in part of it, but I think it's like that ability to take the pressure off yourself, right? Like, because like you said, it's like, what the fuck's the worst going to happen? This world's still spinning. We're not part of a book club, right? We're talking about
Yep.
combat and violence, and these things are going to happen. But like I said, like some of the best sparring is when you're like, hey, listen, just chill the fuck out. Let's just play. Like nobody's gonna get knocked the fuck out here. We're just having fun, right? And then you give yourself, again, a lot of those elements that we've talked about tonight, giving yourself permission and all those things. Like now you just get to do what you want to do, and it's like, yeah. And then it's like, oh, you keep trying something, you keep trying. It's like, why does that not work? It's like you keep trying the same thing, dummy, right? So,
Yeah,
but
and also
joking around and as you go, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think too that's what opens the door to growth because as Brad's talking, it's like, well, that's just the doorway to creativity. That's when you start to try goofy stuff, which yeah, okay, you're not something you'd ever use in combat, but if you have the attributes to pull off some goofy shit, well, then you've got the attributes to do the more structured strategies that we're teaching new people, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's this thing, right? I have a thing. So the third column of things that I made was play seriously because it's what we've just been saying. It seems Like it's contradictory, but it's not. Because you have to be relaxed and playful, but within that, you're very, very serious. Okay? So you have all the positive, emotions, emotional states, loose, creative, crisp, sharp, focused, energetic, smooth, all that stuff, but none of the other bullshit. So there's a couple things in there, and we've talked about lots. Rationalization and acceptance. What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay? Well, here's kind of the interesting thing. That's already happening. Because
Yeah.
how I want to land this plane is all the stuff we're talking about just being relaxed and playful. I'm talking about it in a training context. And when you are new or newer, again, it's training. It's training for the real world, but it's still training. You have to learn, practice, master before you can functionalize. It's a very expedient process, right? But you still have to learn and practice. Professional athletes still have to practice their sport. They still have to condition for their sport before they go out and play the game. So you need the right training environment with the right, with the fertile soil to grow you the right way, and being relaxed and playful is a much better way. Can that relaxed playfulness, do you carry that forward into a life and death confrontation? And for me personally, the answer is 1,000% yes. Is it as relaxed and playful as it is in training? Oh, I could only wish. I could only wish. But the reality is that if I can be relaxed and playful at, let's say, like a 95, 98% level in training, really good hard training, you're doing hard scenarios, mass attack, like really, really intense, heavy stuff, and you're relaxed and loose and energetic and sharp, and you got a sense of humor about the little shit that ain't going right, and all of this type of stuff, and you stay in that state, you're going to perform and you're going to adapt to the fuck ups just so much better. So I'm at that 95, 98% state. But if I can do that in really fucking hard training, consistently do that, okay, that means I'm in control of my state. Now, when all of a sudden it becomes the real deal, the real world thing, yeah, that might drop to a 60, 50, 40% rate. If you can, in a life and death situation, keep 20 to 25, 15, 30% of the relaxed playfulness because you go, this is what I fucking do. Like, why stress at that point? Why is it any different? Because the worst thing that can happen is already happening. Worry isn't going to do anything for you. We all know that worry has never solved the fucking problem. Not one. It is utterly useless. It's been proven over and over again that worrying does nothing for you. And so if you can just not take yourself or not take the shit too seriously and just punch in and go to work, just do what you got to do. So you got to let go. You got to rationalize and accept what the fuck's happening. Combat has as much fucking humor in it as any other crisis in life. My mom, last year died from ALS. ALS, a terminal disease. You get that diagnosis and, it's terminal. It's a fucking life-changing, shattering, horrific fucking disease. And yet, over the 2 years that she fought ALS, there was a tremendous amount of humor in that and levity in that. Otherwise, you're just going to blow your own fucking brains out. So if people that have been diagnosed with cancers and children and they fight terminal disease and all of these things that are so goddamn fucking serious, and yet humor and joy and laughter can be found in those moments mixed in with the intense emotions and sorrow in this, well, that's fucking life. And that's what's happening in these critical situations. And so in a combat situation, fuck it. Like, this is like, if you haven't experienced something like that, you better start figuring out what that's like. You better start putting yourself, go volunteer and be around people that are facing terminal, like put yourself around people that are facing life and death and see the beauty in how and the grace in them finding humor and joy and all of that other shit. And then recognize that there is an element of that, a big part of that, that can be brought into combat. And context determines content. So I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but it is the same. It is the same. It's different, but the same, right? Different thing, but different, but same. And that's what I feel about it. And if your training brings the seriousness of what you're dealing with, but at the same time just goes, listen, life in and of itself is fucking hard, and combat's no different. Violence is no different. And so how I just think, look around and model somebody. Find somebody who's gone through something or is going through something that you go, I can't even fucking fathom going through that. And then just watch how they handle it. Find the ones that handle it with the best grace and joy and whatever, and just watch the ones that don't just go through it, but literally excel through it, despite whatever the outcome is at the end of it, and model that and start looking at where they're at. You know what I mean? That to me is like, you know, and like, again, just from the beginning of that session to the end of the session, the level of performance this individual was able to attain in a very short period of time from just going, fuck it. Accept the fate, man. You're training for something that is horrible, life and death. You know, you win, you get to live, you lose, and sometimes even when you win, you don't get to live. But, you know, you're fighting for your life, for the life of your family. It's fucking serious shit. But stop taking yourself so fucking seriously. You know what I mean? Be relaxed, get playful, get loose, get energetic, do all that shit, find your humor, and fucking just let go, be in the moment, rationalize and accept, right? Grant yourself the grace and permission to just be human, like combat accuracy, the failures, all that stuff, and then fucking punch in and go to work. That's creating a very different animal, in my opinion. I don't know. So you guys, anything, what is your guys' opinion on whether you can or should take that relaxed and playful state to a real world combat situation? Can you, should you, would you? What do you guys think on that?
I think you have to. You know, I think like, but like what you said, like not like if I'm operating at a 90% here in training, but yeah, but like 15%, 20%, whatever that is, I think you have to, because even like when I talked about like my character, and when I feel like I'm performing at my best, I'm in my ozone. That's part of it. So how can I be in a critical incident and have that part completely stripped away?
Yeah.
I don't think it works that way.
Yeah.
So at some level, if you've built this persona and this way, this attitude and this character and all these things while you're training, is like, how do you strip one part of that away fully and completely and think that you're going to perform at your ozone or at your optimum when you have the most precious things on the line?
Yeah.
I don't think that you can, because that element that created you at your best is now gone. One element, right? So
yeah, 100%. I agree 100%. Dustin?
Yeah, I think when you look at like people who are just starting, you know, you talked about, you know, zero to farmable. It's right on the screen with us here. When people are starting out, that's what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to get from nothing, no capability, to formidable, able to protect themselves, their families, that kind of thing. And so I think what we're trying to tell people is, like, in that process, you can start to have fun, you can enjoy it, even though you're just starting out. And then I think where you see it even more, or it's easier to see anyway, as you train more and more, one thing we always talk about is like, or an expression we use is, it's not who you can beat, it's who you can play with. And I think that is very applicable tonight, because as we train deeper and deeper, people are like, well, why are you guys doing this for 25 years? Like, if you can get people here like in 16 lessons, which you can, well, why are you doing it 25 years later? Like, there's a lot of reasons, obviously, but one of them is because we all very much want to see, well, who can we play with?
Yeah.
How badass of an assailant, how violent of a criminal can we play with? Like, of course we want to beat him, but what else can I do?
Yeah.
How little can I do and still beat him? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's part of what you're talking about, is like, how much playfulness can you bring with you? Like you guys are saying, is it 9%, 20%, 60%? Well, the deeper you go into training, the higher that percentage gets. So 1,000%, you can bring that attitude into a life and death situation because of the training and the amount of training.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a struggle for people to balance the idea, never mind actually functionally, physically, literally doing this, of play and seriousness, and someone who is playful, relaxed, all that type of stuff, and just fucking literally punches in and gets to work. One aspect we didn't get into because I just thought it would take away a little bit from it, but I'll just throw it out there and people can kind of unpack it in their own way. The guys that when I see, and I feel this personally, but I'm not going to use myself as an example because I've been around guys that do this at a much higher level than I do it at, but the guys that I've been around that have the great, like just some of just the scariest killer instinct, the ruthlessness, the viciousness, I mean, just crazy psychotic people. When they're in a mood, it's not a brooding mood. That's easier to calculate. When they are in a relaxed, playful, mood, it's like playing with a psychopath. Do you know what I mean? Like I literally, obviously the phrase, "Why so serious?" is from the Joker movies, right? Heath Ledger's excellent portrayal of the Joker, but holding the knife to what's her name's mouth and being like, "Why so serious?" Like is just delivered like, and that is literally the feeling of like somebody who is completely the killer instinct, the viciousness, the ruthlessness, and yet they are enjoying that. That's that individual in defense of your family, where some violent predatory criminal, dark and brooding and scary and all this shit, and then they break into the home of somebody who literally it takes great pleasure in violence. You know what I mean? Like just like they're good at it, they're skilled at it, they're relaxed, they're playful with it, would never use it, amorally or illegally. But when legally, morally justified, when that predator, reasonably presents them with that imminent, grievous bodily harm or death threat, why so serious? Like it's playtime. I've been around a couple people in my time that have that mindset, and it is very fucking different, and it is terrifying, and it's something that I've always aspired to understand, be able to train and share and like for myself and relay to other people, because there's a power to it. There's a power to it. And a lot of people they're never exposed to it. It's just everything is super, serious, and it kind of leads people the other way. So anyways, that's another part we could get into, how this enhances killer instinct and viciousness and ruthlessness, but I'll leave that to people's kind of own thought process as to how this might play into that. So all right. Any other final points on this, guys?
Not me. Good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here for tonight, guys. Thank you guys so much. Great having you both back. That was awesome. I hope a lot of people got some value out of this one. It is definitely something that you want to bring into it. Be more relaxed, be playful, but play seriously, folks. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay weaponized. Chat again soon, everybody. Take care.